A couple months ago, my buddy Brian over at the Homestead Journey podcast asked me if I would be interested in speaking at the Southern Adirondack Homesteading Festival. Being the good friend that I am, as if I didn't already have enough on my plate, I graciously accepted. So bright and early on May 20th, I packed up all my stuff, hopped in the truck, and drove over to Washington County Fairgrounds in New York State to attend. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Homestead. Today, I'm going to take you on a little trip to the Southern Adirondack Homesteaders Festival. The event was pretty cool. I did two presentations. One was on how to market your small farm or homestead. And we can talk to everybody here that's in the how to market your small farm class. So you can find this on our YouTube channel. I'll be talking about it next week. If you have a small farm or homestead like we do and you work a job off the farm and you produce a variety of products, you don't necessarily have a ton of time to do your marketing. So I did this presentation to kind of pitch some ideas and some strategies for everyone else to make more effective use of their time on the small farm or homestead to get their name out and get the product sold. I also did a chicken processing workshop, which if you attended, you may have seen there were a few little snafus. It was not my chicken processing equipment, it was somebody else's, and we were dealing with some power issues and things like that. But overall, I think the people that attended, they got a pretty good idea of the steps and the effort involved in processing chickens on your homestead at a small scale level. Besides myself, there were a bunch of other speakers there, all relatively local to the Southern Adirondack, New York region, which was pretty cool. Homesteading looks different across the country. That should be no surprise to anybody. But even within the regions of the Northeast, you get into these little microclimates, you know, the mountainous region of the Adirondacks in New York, it sees a lot more cold weather than we do even here in New Hampshire, which is typically regarded as being, you know, generally among people as a colder state than New York. It gets really cold in the Adirondacks. So to have a homesteading festival that focuses on that and bringing in speakers from that region is pretty cool. Because I was giving two presentations in one day and I drove in that morning and was leaving that afternoon, unfortunately, I didn't get to see a bunch of the presentations that I wanted to. Pork Rind, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with, was speaking at the event. Rich Giordano, who's one of my local favorites, was speaking. I didn't get to see much of him talk. I did get to see a little bit of his presentation on seed saving. They had a bunch of cool vendors show up as well. Better Bee attended.
So Better Bee is a beekeeping supplier and also a beekeeping educator. So we supply bees to people, we supply beekeeping equipment to people, we supply anything that you need to keep your bees happy and healthy. And the most important part of that, at least as far as I'm concerned, is education, so that people understand how to keep their bees healthy and happy and be able to continually produce, you know, food on their homesteads from year to year.
They were at the Homesteaders of New England Fall Gathering last year, which will be held again this year, September 9th and 10th, linked to tickets down below. There were also some smaller vendors at the event, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, my name's Pat and Bimbo. My wife and my daughter and I run a farm in Granville, New York. We do maple, honey, and lavender. We make lavender lemonade. We sell at the grocery stores and at the farm markets in Schenectady and Saratoga. I'm the beekeeper because all the rest of them are afraid of bees.
One of the cool things for me was I got to sit down with Brian, and he brought his podcasting equipment from the Homestead Journey studio and brought it and set it up at the fairgrounds and actually recorded a podcast live. And I got to sit in and be part of that. For most people, the line that they see for where their food turns from animal into food is sitting neatly packaged in cellophane and styrofoam at the grocery store. Whereas when you come to an event like this and you watch a poultry processing workshop or you get hands-on and actually participate in it, you're able to kind of take that line and say, oh, well, you know, it's not necessarily in a styrofoam tray. You know, that is, for many people that take a class like that, it's coming out of the plucker. That's when it's the food, and the feet are still on and the head might still be on, but it looks like a chicken you would get in the store. For even, you know, people that take an even more hands-on approach, if you're raising your own food, you've now pushed that line even further where, you know, we have 10 pigs on our homestead right now and 30 meat birds currently, 29 meat birds, we lost one. But we've now moved that line, for me at least, even more, where I look at my pigs that are running around in the field, living, breathing, playing, and rolling in mud. You know, they are food from day one when they come onto the farm. Like, I look at them and they're great and I want to give them a good life, But that line to me is pushed even further, where they are food animals, they're not pet animals, they're not the dog or the cat or anything like that. All in all, I think it was a really cool event, and I'm excited to watch it grow over the next few years and see what they do with it. And now I kind of want to get into the meat and potatoes of this video and talk a little bit about why I think personally that these regional homestead festivals are so important that I went as far as to start my own up here in New England. You can maybe see behind me up there, we're about to get some severe storms here in New England. It's gonna rain probably in less than an hour, it's gonna start. But even as everyone in the area prepares for this severe band of storms that's gonna be moving through in a little bit, looking at the weather nationwide, you've got tornado warnings in Louisiana, you've got tornado warnings in Georgia right now. For us, the very notion of a tornado warning is virtually non-existent, whereas down in those places, it's relatively commonplace. And even with these storms bearing in, I've got 20 turkeys out here, 30 or so Cornish cross over there, 10 pigs way down the field. If somebody was to do a presentation at a homesteading festival in Georgia talking about preparedness for natural disasters and how to make sure your birds and your animals were safe, it would probably look a lot different than the same topic spoken about up here in New England. If somebody said to me, how do you prepare for natural disasters with your animals? Summer would go right out the window. I don't have to worry about tornadoes. I don't have to worry about earthquakes. I don't have to worry about flooding so much. Where my mind goes would be looking at natural storms and natural disasters that occur in the wintertime. Things like ice storms, blizzards, heavy wet snow that can cause power outages and tree failures and things like that. The odds of us getting a tornado are so low that if I was to take the precautionary measures to protect our turkeys from tornadoes every year, it would be an expensive and very time-consuming endeavor to build them a shelter that's more than just pallets and cattle panels with a tarp on top. Even if we got a tornado right now, I don't know if it'd be able to pick up these chickens. Look at you guys. You are absolutely huge. I've gone to Homesteaders of America the last 2 years. Last year I held our own homesteading event here in New England, the Homesteaders of New England Fall Gathering. I think personally it's important to break down the contexts in which these homesteading events exist. You'll see something like Homesteaders of America, which happens down in Virginia. Great event. I go out of my way to try and get down there and attend every year that I can. I've gone the last 2 years. I've got a ticket for this year, trying to make it happen. But that's the sort of event where you can go down, you can get kind of an overarching view of everything and be exposed to a ton of different ideas and opportunities and products and things that are relevant to a small farm or homesteading. Not everything that you're gonna see down there applies to what I'm doing up here in New England, but at the same time, you can get a look at it, you can maybe get a little bit of a feel for it and say, okay, how can I take that and adapt it back here in New England? And then you have events like Homesteaders of New England Fall Gathering and the Southern Adirondack Homesteading Festival, and you have more regional, local events and topics and products and displays and methods that people are talking about. And those are things that you can pull what you learned at possibly HOA, bring it back, compare and contrast to what you're seeing done at those local events, and then come up with a way to implement both to make them work. If you think about somebody who just says, I want to raise chickens, as you probably know, and I've talked about on the channel before, raising chickens is a broad spectrum. You've got bantams, you've got egg layers, you've got meat birds, you've got all these different paths you can go down. You can try and develop a true dual purpose breed. You can try and develop specialized breeds for meat or egg laying. Simply saying I want to raise chickens, yes, you want to raise chickens, that's cool, but that's not specific enough to be able to get anything meaningful out of it. You go to specific sources, whether you want to raise meat birds, whether you want to raise egg layers, whether you want to raise bantams, you go to these specific sources and you niche down and find what works for you. Same thing with these homesteading festivals. You go to the big ones and you get some ideas and you get some thoughts, and then you niche down into smaller areas that are more dedicated to what you're actually doing and really let those ideas grow and mature and thrive in those settings. So I think it's great that we're seeing all these smaller homesteading festivals pop up. I think it's great that we're seeing some of them get larger than they have been in previous years. We had 400 people at the Homesteaders of New England Fall Gathering last year. We're anticipating 1,000 people this year. If you haven't already gotten your tickets for that, I do suggest it because we do have a ticket cap in place this year. We don't want to go over 1,000 people. If you're thinking about attending, go get your tickets now. $25 for the weekend, and you can come and see what we're doing here in New England and how we do it, how I do it, how other people do it. Actually, you won't see how I do it. I'm not talking, but you watch this channel apparently, so you're already seeing how I do it. We've got Tom Watkins from McMurray Hatchery speaking this year. We've got Troy McClung from the Pastured Pig podcast coming to talk. We've got Morgan from Goldshaw Farm coming out again, and a whole bunch of other speakers that I'm just really excited to have on board, sharing what they know and providing info that homesteaders here in New England can take and bring back to their small farms or homestead and make stuff happen. So yeah, thanks for the Southern Adirondack Homesteading Festival for having me out. I'm really excited about how it went, and I look forward to going back next year. If you haven't already, go check out Brian and his podcast, The Homestead Journey, available where all podcasts are. I don't know how podcasts really work. And make sure that you check out the Homesteaders of New England Fall Gathering, happening this September 9th and 10th in Greenfield, New Hampshire. Link in the description. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope you're all having a great day. Bye.